Most of us spend a lot of time looking outside of ourselves for answers that we're always going to have to come from within. Be your own fucking guru. That's what this series is about. I'm Ryan Paul McGuigan. This is Beneath the Noise. To be honest, most people just get to a certain age and they wonder how they've ended up where they are. When they look back at it, there's no single moment they can point at and identify as when the drift started. There's no sense of any line being crossed or anything like that. It can be a strange feeling, confusing how it happened in the first place, and confusing that you can't see where or when or why it happened. For sure, nobody loses touch with themselves in an afternoon. Ironically, nobody makes a decision to stop making conscious choices. It's just genuinely difficult sometimes to tell the difference between what choices are truly yours and the ones influenced by those around you, whether they mean to or not. Decisions made from your own genuine wants and needs aren't the same as decisions made to meet others' expectations. And it's even harder when we also want to meet those expectations at some level, for whatever reason. So yes, it all happens gradually, in the ordinary run of things, and usually totally under the radar. And it all starts so early that it feels normal as we get older. We have our parents or caregivers doing their best to guide us and keep us safe from the start. And we trust them to do that. Before we're able to think and decide for ourselves, we defer to them. As we're just trying to figure out our place in the world and give meaning to all our interactions and experiences. I mean, this is 30 odd years ago, so I can't remember anyone sitting me down and explicitly telling me, study hard, get the grades, go to university, get a respectable, well-paying job. I genuinely can't, but I know that I was guided to believe that that was the way of it. And I think most people can relate to something along those lines. By the time I was 10 or 11, preparing for the exams that would decide which school I went on to after primary school, I already knew that not getting into the grammar school wasn't really an option. But I owned it as my own want and need. It was for my own good. It was leading to a happy future. And the extra studying and preparation would be worth it. But not all expectations are as obvious. Not through anyone sitting you down and laying out the expected sequence. They come in gradually, through what's assumed, through what goes without saying, through a million small signals over years. Whether you get a positive reaction or a negative one, whether the people around you lean in or pull back, depending on what you say or do. Over time, those signals tell you who to be, what gets you accepted, what gets you liked, and the adjustments you make gradually stop feeling like adjustments. At some point, they stop feeling like someone else's expectations. They start to feel like your own opinion about how things work and what they mean, what success looks like, when it should happen, what you've fallen short of. The measure just becomes yours without you ever having signed off on it. By the time we get to our early 20s, we're already carrying a lot of lived experience, a lot of conditioning, other people's guidance, expectations, opinions, judgments, demands, and all of that. We don't necessarily feel the weight of it. It's just normal. It starts early and it's slowly accumulated over the years. And it's just how it is. And we carry that image of how things should be or how they need to be in order to one day have a happy life. And at each stage, there's a version of what success is supposed to look like. Most people absorb that without ever being asked to agree to it. So that's what most people do. They set off on a path, loaded up with all the conditioning and expectations of what should happen, of what success looks like at every step of the way as we pick up all the extra roles of the employee, of the business owner, the partner, the spouse, the parent, the homeowner. All of these add their own expectations, responsibilities, demands, sacrifices, compromises. It all looks like our own decisions and choices along the way. And a lot of it genuinely will be. But who's to know what's genuinely yours and what's the guidance given to a 10-year-old back in the day? A lot will have changed since then. Most people are just too busy, right in the thick of it, to take the time and space to stop and really question it. When you're on a certain path, it's difficult to get off it. People tend to keep going once they're on a certain path for a certain time. For example, it's usually more beneficial to get on a career path, gain experience and expertise in that role, and as you get better at it, it starts to pay better. You get more respect from your peers, you get more status, and the image of success starts to take shape, which is absolutely fantastic if you love your work and you're deeply fulfilled by it. But if you aren't, it can be super difficult to get off that path because it means starting again, potential pay cuts, going back to being a beginner, loss of respect, loss of status. And that hits differently when someone has built their whole sense of themselves around that image of success. And that's how someone ends up in their 40s, measuring themselves against a standard they never consciously chose, and barely knowing who they are anymore. And none of that happened in a moment. There's no morning to point to, no single decision that set the whole trajectory, just the ordinary movement of a life through stages, each one adding to what had already accumulated. The path taking shape gradually, the expectation that you'd land in a certain kind of life by a certain age. The roles that arrived through the career, the relationship, and all the responsibility just got absorbed, bit by bit. None of it dramatic or seeming out of place. None of it requiring any active agreement on your part. Just years of momentum in a particular direction. By the way, none of this is an argument against the guidance, the conditioning, the roles, or the expectations. Most of it is valuable, genuinely. The guidance I received from my parents about the school choice and putting the effort in at that stage was priceless. It kept so many doors open for me. The various roles I picked up along the way all taught me something valuable. The conditioning can accumulate and still leave you fully yourself, as long as the connection to who you actually are stays intact underneath it. The roles can pile up and still be fine, as long as there's a person underneath them who knows who they are beyond the roles. The problem is when that connection is quietly lost, when the roles become the whole story, when the expectations absorbed from somewhere else become the measure you hold yourself to without ever having consciously agreed to it. Because when that happens and one of the roles gets removed or stops fitting or simply ends, there isn't much underneath. And I found that out the hard way. And underneath all of this, while it's happening, something else is quietly occurring. Things that were there from the beginning are slowly wearing down. 7 of them, gradually, usually without any sign of it on the surface. That's what the next episode's about. Thanks for listening to Beneath the Noise. If something in this landed for you, pass it on to someone you think could use it. And the next episode is there when you're ready.